Hi, I'm Sarah Swinnell, and I'll be guiding you through Distress Tolerance Worksheet 1A, Crisis Survival Skills. This worksheet builds on Worksheet 1 by asking you to actively practice each crisis survival skill twice. In Worksheet 1, you only recorded two crisis events and identified what skills you could have used. Now you'll be practicing each skill twice. This worksheet also includes a few new details to track, including how long you spent using the skill, your level of distress tolerance, and your positive emotion intensity. Again, use this worksheet after you've learned all six crisis survival skills. Since the worksheet lists all of them, and if you haven't learned every skill yet, you might not be able to complete it fully. Remember that crisis survival skills are to be used when we can't solve the problem immediately, whether because it's not the right time or because we're too emotionally overwhelmed to think clearly. Also, recall that a crisis does not have to be a disaster. A situation is a crisis when you feel intense pressure to solve the problem right away, but acting impulsively could make things worse. So, for this worksheet, what you need to do is for each skill, write down what day you used it and how you practiced it. Be specific. So, if you use the tip skill, note whether you used cold water, exercise, or paced breathing. If you used distraction, say whether you watched a movie, helped someone, or did something else. So, let's fill in the worksheet now. So, what we have here is a couple of examples of using the stop skill. And I've written here that on Monday I didn't react, and on Wednesday I froze before I responded. So, this is column one, and I filled in column one for stop skills, and now I'll fill in some for the other skills. So you can see here that now I have completed all of column one. When you're actually filling out this worksheet, you'll probably just complete that skill by skill, but just for showing you how to run through it, I've completed all of column one first, and I've included a couple of times I've used each skill. So with pros and cons, I've written here that on Thursday I used pros and cons to decide whether or not to engage in a target behavior. And on the Friday, I have done a pros and cons to decide if I'm going to write my essay or not write my essay. On Tuesday, I've used the tip skill by using cold water, and Wednesday, I've done intense exercise. On Monday, I have distracted using Wise Mind Accepts, by doing a jigsaw, and on Wednesday by listening to loud music. On Friday, I self soothed by lighting some candles and also drinking some coffee. And on Monday, I used Improve the Moment by using prayer. And on Wednesday, I used Improve the Moment by vacation. So now what we want to do is we want to fill in the second column, and the second column is all about what was the crisis that prompted the need to use the skill. So let's go ahead and fill this column in. So now I've gone ahead and I have completed the second column, and let me explain what all of this means because there's not all that much room in the worksheet to write out a complete description. So for the stop skill, I used it on Monday and I didn't react. And the crisis that prompted me to need to use the skill was that I got a job rejection via email. So after I got that job rejection, I didn't react immediately after reading the job rejection. The next time I used the stop skill was on the Wednesday, and I've written here that I froze before responding. And the crisis that prompted me to need to use the skill was my partner yelling at me. So I froze before responding after they yelled at me. On Thursday, I did a pros and cons for engaging in a target behavior or not, and the crisis that was happening at that time was anxiety. On Friday, I did a pros and cons of writing my essay or not writing my essay, and the crisis that caused me to do that pros and cons was that the essay was due the next day. The tip skill on the Tuesday, I used cold water, and the crisis that prompted me to use that skill was a fight with my partner. On Wednesday, I used the skill of intense exercise, and the crisis that prompted me was my partner yelling. And you can see that my partner yelled. Here I use the tip skill, but I also use the stop skill as well. So you can have different skills or more than one skill in response to one crisis. Similarly, I distracted by doing a jigsaw puzzle, and I distracted by in response to having been rejected for a job. And again, I also used the stop skill when I was rejected for the job. I also used loud music on the Wednesday, and that was after my partner yelled. And you can see here that on that Wednesday, I also used intense exercise and also used the stop skill. And so on and so forth. The other crises that were included, my essay was due. I self-soothed on the Saturday after submitting the essay, after feeling really anxious that it might not be up to scratch. Improved the moment in response to job rejection. I used prayer. And on the Wednesday, I had a very mini vacation after my partner yelled, and remembering that I also used listening to loud music, exercise, and the stop skill when my partner yelled. So let's go to the next column, which is the amount of time practicing the skill. And this is important because sometimes it takes quite a few minutes, up to maybe an hour, and maybe even more than an hour, engaging in one particular skill until it actually works. So here I have gone through and added some time to each of the skills. And obviously some skills you will spend less time than other skills. So for example, the stop skill, that skill is one that you'll probably only spend a few seconds to a few minutes on before you maybe progress to a second skill. So for the stop skill, I have 1 minute and 1 minute here. For pros and cons, I have both at 5 minutes. For the tip skill with cold water, 15 minutes, and exercise, 10 minutes. I did a jigsaw for 60 minutes, and I listened to loud music for 10 minutes. I had my candles burning for the entire time I worked on my essay, so that was 2 hours. I sat and had a coffee when I was anxious about how well I did my essay, and that was for 20 minutes. I sat and did some prayer for 5 minutes, and I had a mini vacation where I went down to the park and swung on the swings, and that took me 30 minutes. So now we want to go to the next column, and this one is all about your level of distress tolerance. So this is about how much can you stand the distress. From 0, I can't stand it at all and I really need to avoid or escape from it, up until 5, where you are tolerating the distress. So this is not about an absence of distress. This is about how much you feel you can tolerate the distress that's happening. Remember, the crisis survival skills are not problem-solving skills, and they are about tolerating the distress in the moment so we don't make things worse. So I'll fill out a couple of these, not the entire column. The first one, when I first had the rejection for the job, I felt like it was a 4. I felt like it was a 1. I can't stand it, hardly at all. And then after I did the stop skill, and then probably I would need to do the jigsaw and maybe even the prayer. I probably need to do a couple of crisis survival skills to really get to a higher level. But let's just say I was a 1 here. I can't stand it. And then after I did all of those skills, I was a 5. I could definitely survive it. The next column is about my negative emotion intensity, both before and after doing the skill. So before, I'm going to say I was a 95, and then after doing the stop skill, I was maybe an 85. I think probably I would need to do additional skills in order to get lower in my negative intensity. And then in my positive emotion intensity, when I first got the job rejection email, I might have been a 20. And then after I did the stop skill, maybe I was a 25. And the last piece of this worksheet is describing conclusions or maybe even some questions about this practice. So this is a reflection on what you noticed. Did the skill help? And if so, how did it help? If it didn't help, why do you think it didn't help? Maybe the skill wasn't the right fit. Maybe you didn't use it long enough. But writing this down helps you to refine your approach over time. So I'm going to jot down here that this helped me to not engage in impulsive behaviors. So here it says, using the stop skill, stopping, not reacting, it helped me to avoid engaging in impulsive behaviors. And obviously, I would complete that for each one of these rows, as well as obviously completing all of these befores and after in terms of being able to tolerate distress, your negative emotion intensity, and your positive emotion intensity. And remember that the more you practice these skills, the more you'll learn about what works for you. Keep in mind that not every skill will work every time, and that's okay. The goal is to have a variety of tools for different situations. Hi, I'm Sarah Swinnell, and I'll be guiding